Like, why can't we hear them? All right.
You got this.
It's gonna be great.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
It's just 12:18. We're almost up.
Sue's so good with her time. So
Giving me a job. I'm like, okay.
Good afternoon, Nifty. Welcome to our plenary lunch. I would like to ask you all to put your hands together for our Master of Ceremonies and moderator for today, Nifty alum Vinay Brown, CEO of We Do It For Us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's panel on leveraging entrepreneurship education for future readiness. My name is Vinay, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be your moderator for today's panel. Let me dive into who I am a little bit deeper. Once again, my name is Vinay Brown, and I'm the founder and CEO of Better Days Productions, as well as the COO of We Do It For Us. As a passionate advocate for entrepreneurship education, I'm also proud to serve as a Nifty Volunteer Programs Associate. My personal journey in entrepreneurship began as a student in the Nifty program, and so I'm a proud Nifty alumni class of 2018. Now, having experienced firsthand the impact of the entrepreneurial mindset domains in my own life, I'm excited to facilitate this conversation and explore how we can leverage these domains to prepare our students for a future full of possibilities. So, thank you for joining me today as we explore the topic of leveraging entrepreneurship education for future readiness. In this panel, we'll dive into the importance of equipping our students with the necessary skills and the mindset to thrive in an ever-changing world. So, when we talk about entrepreneurship education, Nifty has identified 8 key entrepreneurial mindset domains that are essential for success and career longevity. These domains serve as vital measurements for our students' growth and development. Nifty educators who practice instilling these mindset domains in their classroom are here with us today. And so, as we discuss how to leverage these domains for future readiness, let us consider the following question. How can we further harness the power of these domains and more to prepare our students for the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow? Now, let's take a closer look at the 8 entrepreneurial domains. We have flexibility and adaptability, communication and collaboration, creativity and innovation, comfort with risk, opportunity recognition, critical thinking and problem solving, future orientation, as well as initiative and self-reliance. Reflecting on my own experience as a once student in the Nifty program, I can attest to the transformative power of these entrepreneurial mindset domains. The guidance and support from my Nifty instructor at the time allowed me to cultivate these domains and prepared me for the entrepreneurship journey ahead of me. By embracing flexibility, communication, creativity, and other essential domains, I was able to navigate challenges, seize opportunities, and adapt to a rapidly changing business landscape. As we consider how to leverage these domains for future readiness, let us highlight the expertise of our Nifty educators and their commitment to instilling these mindset domains in their classroom. Together, we can explore innovative ways to enhance our students' future readiness and equip them with the skills they need to thrive in the years to come. But before we dive into our discussion, I would love to share some remarkable findings from NFTE. We recently published a trends report that shed light on the remarkable outcomes achieved by our NFTE students. The report confirmed that NFTE students are budding entrepreneurs, with 1 in 5 NFTE alumni being self-employed. This statistic speaks volumes about the efficacy of entrepreneurship education and fostering the entrepreneurial spirit, equipping our students with the skills they need to pursue their own ventures. Additionally, the report highlighted that NFTE students consistently demonstrate growth in their mindsets. Through pre- and post-surveys conducted during their NFTE classes, students showed significant development across the entrepreneurial mindset domains. Now, this reinforces the effectiveness of NFTE's approach in nurturing the skills and mindset necessary for entrepreneurship success. Moreover, the report showcased an encouraging trend, with female NFTE students being found to outperform their male classmates in mindset growth. This suggests that NFTE is making significant strides in closing the entrepreneurship gender gap and empowering young women to thrive as entrepreneurs. These findings are a testament to the true value of entrepreneurship education and the impact it can have on shaping our students' futures. So as we delve into this discussion today, let's keep in mind these achievements and explore how we can further leverage entrepreneurship education and foster future readiness amongst our students. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to introduce our esteemed panel, and we'll start with Ashley Hemme.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ashley Hemme, and I'm the Director of Corporate Social Responsibility for American Student Assistance. Thank you. We played cornhole yesterday, so we had a whole team going on. If you haven't done that yet. So ASA is a national nonprofit focused on helping young people in grades 6 through 12 learn about themselves, explore their interests, gain exposure to careers, and navigate post-secondary pathways. And we do this through a number of different ways. We partner with organizations all over the country through grant-making efforts. So we fund nonprofits and school districts, both large national scope, like NFTE, who's been a partner of ours for the last couple of years, as well as smaller, more localized organizations. We also have strategic partnerships with ed tech organizations that are doing good for young folks. We invest in for-profit organizations. And then we take all of these learnings from the partners that we've gained, and we conduct research, send out research and white papers, sit on stages like this one to share that and to elevate grantees in that space. We advocate and work alongside policymakers across the country. And then we also develop direct-to-kid, direct-to-student digital platforms that are free for students to use directly on their phones. Through all of these different ways, we try to find a touch point for every student across the US, both in and out of school, to support them. So through my role as Director of CSR, I lead the philanthropy work. So my whole team focuses on supporting our grantees all across the country. And before that, I've been at ASA for about 4 years. Before that, I was a 5th grade teacher for 7. So really glad to be here in a space with a lot of other fellow teachers.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And it's good to know that you were once an educator yourself. Yep. So I will pass it over to Caroline Cook from Feroiga.
Great. Thanks, Renee. Thanks, Ashley. Hi, all. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I have to say, I am just so honored. I myself have been involved in NFTE for over 16 years. I work with Feroiga, which is Ireland's largest youth organisation. We cater for over 50,000 young people right across the country. And our organisation is very much working with young people who are coming from quite disadvantaged, tough areas and supporting them to reach their full potential. So we run a number of formal and non-formal education programs through leadership, entrepreneurship education, citizenship, drug and alcohol education, supports around young people developing mentorship to ensure that we can provide pathways to further education, training and opportunities for young people who need it the most. I finished college on the Friday and started within my organisation on the Monday, and having conversations here with you all over the last few days, I think it's fair to say it's just a labour of love. I think the passion and the love that we all have here in the room to support young people is truly phenomenal.
We're having trouble hearing you, Caroline. Can you just make sure your thing is on and move it up a bit?
Yep, so it's on.
Move it on up a smidge, up your shirt.
There we go.
Just don't want to be.
Yeah, can you hear it a bit better now?
little bit better, I think.
You rock, Caroline.
Yeah, I love that.
Handheld, thank you.
Yeah, handheld, okay. Will I wait till? Perfect.
Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead while you get your handheld mic.
Perfect.
We'll pass it over to Tamar from Intuit.
Does this work? Can you all hear me?
Yes,
You'll hear me
we can
good,
hear
right?
you.
Great. I'm Tamar Ashkan. It's really nice to have this session during lunch.
Right.
It feels very familiar, everyone eating but me, our team up here. I'm just talking the whole time. But I'm with Intuit. My LinkedIn profile says Strategic Partner Manager. That's a fancy title. But I'm also a son, a partner, friend. I'm a former nonprofit worker. I was a grant writer. I know some of you do a little bit of that. I actually did that before. I was also a teacher overseas in Turkey for 4 years, working with refugees. And I was also a DoorDash driver for 6 months. Yeah, I've done a lot of things, y'all, before I got here. And when I applied it into it, I think 2.5 years ago for this corporate responsibility role, I was like, what do I have to lose? I just put the imposter syndrome in a box, put it away, and I was like, I'm gonna apply for this, figure it out, maybe I'll get it. And for some reason, they hired me. I don't know what. I must have said something right in the interview, but I bring to Intuit the corporate responsibility work a lens of empathy, working with nonprofits. I understand nonprofits like NFTE. I've worked with organizations like you all and your schools and teachers in the past. But I'm with Intuit. It's a whole new ballgame because it's about finances, about money, right? Yep. And from me, didn't even talk about money at home, right? And didn't talk about debt. This is like a taboo conversation. We talk about everything else but money, right? In the class, in the home and in the classroom, didn't learn much either, right? So coming into this whole new field, Intuit. How many of you all know about Intuit products like the TurboTax, Mint, QuickBooks, Credit Karma? It's like a CVS receipt, like all these products that we're acquiring and using, and they're great, right? They're all wonderful. What we do in corporate responsibility, right, is we translate those products into education versions of those products to teach students personal finance, financial literacy, right? Because the concepts we learn in the classroom is great, right? And how we apply it, because we know students learn best by doing. And so I'm actually learning too. My first year at Intuit, I was like, I don't use most of these products that Intuit has. I said that very honestly in the interview. So I'm gonna learn how to use this because now I have some money and I'm gonna actually manage how my budget, my savings, my credit score, and in these free simulated environments for students to learn. So that's where I'm coming from here.
I love that. And me once being a student quite recently myself, I loved learning by doing. A lot of times we had teachers that were just like, oh, look in the textbook, do it. But actually learning, especially in the category of finance, it's definitely better to do the work. So I appreciate that. Now, Caroline, I do want to turn it back to you so you can give your full introduction on who you are.
No problem. Can you hear me there, everyone? I'm not having any luck with the microphone. Hello? Oh, can we hear me there?
Nope,
No.
it's on. Typical.
Third time's the charm.
Can we hear me now?
There we go.
I feel like that was a sign. Well, I suppose just to reiterate my introduction, not to go into too much detail, but I manage our youth and entrepreneurship and employability programs for Froiga in Ireland, which is our largest youth organisation, which works with 50,000 young people right across the country. We have over 3,500 volunteers involved in the organisation in hundreds of clubs right across the country. And really our main aim within the organisation is to support young people to reach their full potential and really a bit like what you were saying, Jim, about learning by doing. We run a number of programs from leadership, citizenship, looking at drugs and alcohol education, a lot of 21st century skills, and preparing young people for the future of what work will look like, for further education, training and employment for young people who need it the most. We've been partners with NFTE since 2004. We are so proud of the NFTE program. As discussed yesterday, we have over 34,000 young people have taken part in the NFTE program since it began in Ireland, and we have over 280 teachers running the program. It's amazing, it's life-changing, and delighted to be here today to talk a little bit more about it in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we give it up for our panelists really quickly? So I want to go ahead and set the stage. You guys heard my analysis on what NFTE is doing and what it means to me. I want to talk a little bit about the mindset domains for you all. In the context of the evolving work environment, what would you say are the key mindset domains that you consider for youth to be essential for them to succeed in the workforce of the future? Ashley, we can start with you.
Yeah, so to give a little bit, I would love to start kind of with a younger age demographic, because a big part of ASA's work, so we're a 60-year-old organization that really focused on the financial literacy space for the majority of our time. And back in 2018, we had a mission shift, a mission focus. Through conversations with young people who were at the college level and were taking out loans, everybody was saying at that point, I wish I had known about things earlier. I wish I knew about different careers that were available to me. I wish I explored different pathways. I wish I knew about the college before I went to it. We noticed that a lot of young people were taking out loans and not finishing their programs, or graduating and not going into the field that they went to school for. And so our research team really looked at that younger age demographic of how soon should we start having these conversations and having students learn and explore and challenge them with real world experiences. And so I want to speak to it especially from like a middle grades range, because we really start in 6th grade. Some of our partners start even younger in kindergarten. And about which domains I think make a lot of sense when you have a 6th grader. And if you're thinking about the 6th graders that are in school right now, many during the most formative elementary experiences were toggling between remote, hybrid, and in-person experiences, right? Which is very similar to the way the workforce looks right now. So they have some really interesting experiences. And school has changed, probably for the better and for good, right? As students get to learn about this kind of hybrid experience. And so through these experiences for younger students to learn about their interests, try out different things, gain exposure to as many things as possible, because it's less about putting the students on a pathway and more about what are all the different things you can try out. Did you like this? Did you not like this? I think some of the domains that are incredibly critical for students at that age demographic is that comfort with risk, right? So when you take a risk and try out a different thing, especially as you're considering what electives you want to take, what extracurriculars you would want to do, what challenge you want to try to solve, you want to be able to be comfortable and try to tackle that. And then also recognizing opportunity and opportunity recognition, I think, is really critical too. When you have these problems, young folks, students who are in school right now can tell all of us what the big problems are of the world, right? Because they can see it, they know about it, they're posting about it all over social media, they're probably telling you about it in their classrooms. So those are really great opportunities for them to think about what are the problems that I most care about, and how as a 6th grader can I really think of a solution and be able to advocate for that solution and start doing it then and building connections with employers and organizations. And so I think those are really critical, especially at the younger age demographic as they move into high school and then consider some of those post-secondary options.
Yeah, it's definitely about laying that foundation early.
It really
and
is,
building on.
and gaining those skills to then make those decisions as they move forward.
You know what's funny? I remember being in 6th grade and us just having the class curriculum just set for us, and so we didn't really get the opportunity to explore different things. It was like band or PE and then science and math and all of that. But now with my younger generation that I see, because I also mentor a lot of kids, and then I have a younger sister as well, they have so much opportunity to explore. And so it's very comfortable to say, no, I'm gonna do AP science. And
and it's confidence building, right? We can all remember how we were in 6th and 7th grade. 6th and 7th grade, Ashley was not at my coolest, right? Like a very awkward time period. You're really trying to figure yourself out. You're learning independence. You're answering that question of like, who am I? Who are my peers? Who are the people I really care about? And by taking those risks and seeing that there's a major world problem and you have a piece of that and you can find a solution to that is so meaningful at such an important time for a young person's life.
I appreciate that insight. Caroline, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say, and Vinay, you probably felt just around that kind of being able to explore opportunities through NFTE. I'm sure you helped with the program, like found that, because I suppose from our kind of line of work, a big thing for me is for young people to build resilience in young people, I think is so important. In an organization where we work with young people who are at risk, who maybe don't see opportunities for their future being very bright, that it's about actually we see your potential, and we know what you have to offer. You know, one of the best things I think is about NFTE is that everybody has a talent, and I think talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And programs like this give young people an opportunity to build resilience, to develop their confidence, to, you know, develop that passion and drive of what it is they want to do in life, and actually that you can have the future, that where you're from should never define you, but you can actually choose where you want to go in life. And I think the work that everybody does in the room here today enables young people to reach their full potential. I think there's also a little bit as well around challenging limiting beliefs. With a lot of the young people that we work with, it's about, you know, maybe them feeling that they don't have those skills or they're not able to create that future. But actually, we always talk about one good adult, that if every young person had one good adult to see their potential and to be able to build on those skills, and not just the hard skills, the soft skills that we need for young people, where if you're an employer and you're seeing young people coming in from programs like NFTE, they have built their resilience, they have developed their confidence, they have many skills to offer. They've done business plans, they've done presentations, they've communicated, they have learned by doing, and you know, that's incredible. That's life-changing for young people. We had one young person in the program in NFTE only this year who is a young person with Down syndrome, and he got involved with NFTE. He set up a NFTE company with his granddad, making Christmas crafts. But the reason he wanted to get involved with NFTE, because he felt that because he had Down syndrome, that he wouldn't have the same opportunities with other peers that didn't, and he wanted to use his NFTE platform to advocate for other young people with Down syndrome. And he went on to win our national awards, and he went on to represent Ireland at the European Awards and came second. But what I loved about it is that at the award ceremony, he went up to collect his award before his name was called out. That's how, so the MC said, this young man, and he just up to the stage and to collect his award. But it was, if we could bottle that confidence and those skills, I think that's what programs like NFTE do for young people, and that is what teachers support young people in changing lives for the future.
Absolutely, and that was an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. It means so much to me. I remember when I was in the NFTE program going through it, I was super shy, couldn't imagine me sitting in a room like this full of people talking, but I had this dream to start a music career, and it was NFTE staff and educators that encouraged me to keep going. You could tell that, okay, these are adults that care about me and the work that I want to do, and so I'm going to take that, I'm going to fuel myself and push myself to the next level. So I appreciate your insight on that. Tamar, what would you say?
Yeah, so I'm not saying just because I'm at a NFTE conference, but every NFTE student I've met, and I've met now quite a few at different events, competitions, even through WSI, World Series of Innovation, has been so impressive, like really impressive. And it's testament to you all and the work you've done with them. But they, you know, the way they speak with such command and such authority about the subjects, about their programs, their projects, their communication skills. Just a couple, I think a month ago, 2 months ago, I was able to go to the Emerge America conference and was able to meet a young man from a NFTE student. I believe he was 17 or 18, but I had no idea. The way he was speaking to me, he was lecturing me about business. And I was like, I'm with Intuit, right? They're like, yeah, let me teach you how to really do your taxes. And I was like, who was your teacher? What is this? So I mean, it was just, but I loved it, right? Every NFTE student that I've met has been exceptional and unique, right? And their story comes out in what they're doing, right? There is a why behind everything they're doing. They're adaptable, they're resourceful, right? They've come from a place where they haven't seen a lot of people look like them going on stage and speaking about, pitching about their idea, right? And actually being heard and listened to, right? So I see the value in that, and I see the value in the entrepreneurial mindset firsthand, and it's just a matter of how partners like companies like Intuit can help NFTE, right, and be able to replicate that across the United States. I know a couple of things that we've done at Intuit is, do a social innovation challenge similar to WSI and collaborate there. Also donate food trucks to school districts so that students are actually creating like a food business, right, during sports games and seeing what it's like to actually get money, receive money, sell things, and come up with menu items. That's things we're doing in Los Angeles. If you're in Los Angeles or in Dallas, those are places that we're doing that in. So we're really trying to just add value here so that the entrepreneur mindset is being applied, right, in real world settings.
I love that. And I'm going to ask you the next question, Taimur. Sure. So we know that Intuit focuses on helping students develop job-ready, durable skills. How do you do this through your corporate responsibility initiatives? If you can go on a little bit deeper about that.
Of course. So corporate responsibility at Intuit is still fairly new. I know a lot of big tech companies have their corporate responsibility initiatives or their education initiative. And Intuit's one is about only 4 or 5 years old, I would say. And it's in 3 buckets. So I already mentioned job readiness. That's one. We have job creation and sustainability. Within job readiness, though, what we do is, as I mentioned earlier, we take the Intuit proprietary products and translate it to education versions of those products for free for teachers to use in the classroom, so on and so forth. And we've been a great partner, NFTE's been a great partner of ours, I should say, for the past 3 years, right? About 3 years or so. And continue to keep growing that. What we're doing now is we're expanding, actually. So in the fall, this last 6 months, our CEO directed our team to go bigger, right? To do more. We've had about 2 million learners we've impacted over the past couple of years, but he wants to see us times 10 that, right? Over the next 10, 15 years, because we need to show up, right? Intuit is, we're not a startup, we're a Fortune 100 company. We're investing less than our peers in the education space, so how do we do more? And I'm being frank here about that. So we're building a new financial literacy application this fall, where we're going to have teachers, be able to use Intuit content and curriculum that is turnkey and flexible. So if you want to teach your classes about taxes only, you can do a tax curriculum on there. You can track the students' progress, assign quizzes, assign videos, small videos, short videos as well, and also use the real-world tools, all for free, all for teachers to use, so that financial literacy education is easy and accessible to you all. And I know a lot of you all use other resources, right? So that's why the flexibility is so important, that you can bring in entrepreneurial finance content there, you can bring in credit score content there and teach it to your students and have them feel like it's not a chore to learn about personal finance, right? Yep. So that's something we're evolving for this fall, and I'm very excited that we're actually finally showing up and doing more in this space than we have in the past.
Impacting 2 million learners is a lot of people, a lot of students. I want to ask, as a follow-up, do you have any success stories or testimonials on how Intuit focuses on those skills and how they've impacted the students within the company?
Yeah, sure. So this has evolved a lot, right, since we started. We first started on financial literacy skills, which has still stayed the same today, and entrepreneurial skills. That has now evolved to durable skills, so core skills, communication skills, leadership skills, and how to work with each other, work with your peers. So it has evolved more and more. I think what we are still trying to figure out, and again, being very candid here, is how financial literacy skills are applied in the workplace. So we understand that, in theory, knowing about money, knowing about your finances, learning about budgeting, that's a good skill to communicate to a potential employer. But it's not like something like a Salesforce skill or a QuickBooks skill or like Python skill that's actually listed in a job requirement, right? It's something you just speak to maybe in an interview. So how do we make it actually a signal to employers where this skill is of value to you? Like the fact that I know how to manage my budget, the fact that I help my parents with their taxes, right? I help my parents with translation for some of your kids might be immigrant households, right? Those skills matter, but they're not seen in the labor market, right? And so that's something we're trying to understand, how to build that demand, because the supply is there, right? And your students have those skills to have really good paying jobs in the future. But right now, those skills aren't visible to all employers.
Yep. I love that you spoke on just a need in the workforce for the generation of students coming up, entering that workforce. So I want to pose a question to all of you. And whoever feels free to take that question first, go for it. But how are companies, governments, and education institutions making sure that youth are prepared for the workforce of the future?
I don't mind taking this one. I suppose a big part of our work is working very closely with governments, with corporates, with businesses, with third level education to ensure that we have pathways, that we have opportunities for young people who may not be able to access it through the formal route. And I think that's kind of an ownership on all of us working together, as we all are, to go, you know, we owe it to young people to ensure that there are other routes into, you know, a passion that they're good at, and also identifying what are those skills that employers are looking for. What are those qualifications that third level institutions are looking for that we know through our programs that young people are being equipped with? And I think as, I suppose, a society, that we ensure that young people are equipping these skills by design and not by chance. And I think that's where it comes into programs like NFTE, you know, some of our other programs in the organization we do, like coding, robotics, virtual reality, STEM. It's about ensuring that young people are ready for the jobs that they aren't even created just yet. In 5 or 10 years' time, what those jobs are going to be, I think is really important that we do that collectively. And I do think employers, you know, colleges are really supportive of it, and they see young people coming in with the amazing skills that they have through programs like NFTE. So I think it's really positive.
Yeah. And I can add to that.
Go for it.
So, is this working?
It's
Is
working.
it working? Okay. I'm like panicked that it's not going to be working. So across our work, we've noticed 2 really major trends of how these different institutions are really working together and collaborating for young people. The first is that they're starting to blur the lines between these different systems. So historically, we've had very separate institutions, right? Educational institutions, employers, nonprofits, organizations. But instead, we're seeing these lines become blurred. There's a JFF report, Jobs for the Future report, called The Big Blur. And it's about how do you combine all of these institutions together where it's everybody's role. Because for so long, it's been put on the backs of educators, right? And so it's interesting how hearing about durable skills and what are the skills that employers are looking for, right? I'll use an example. One of our partners is called America Succeeds. It's a national policy institution, and their work has been on durable skills. They built a durable skills framework, and they did analysis of 800 different job postings, and 7 out of the 10 skills that were most asked about or asked for were durable skills. So collaboration, communication, problem solving. And so this organization has worked alongside both employers and practitioners and nonprofits, having them all in the room together and build some coalitions and having a common language. Because right now there's a disconnect often about what's happening in schools and what's happening in employment and what employers are asking for. And so we're seeing that happen more, and that's just one example of a really innovative kind of system. We're seeing employers kind of take the role a little bit further. So ASA partners with the US Chamber of Commerce Foundation, and this is a really great resource that will be out later this fall, but there's a challenge that they're launching. It's called EPIC, and it's focused on local chambers of commerce having job-focused or role-focused challenges for young people in their communities to try to solve. And so the employer is leading this initiative. It's called EPIC. It'll be out later this fall. And so that's for any educator to join into. So you're seeing that employers kind of take that. The second trend we've really seen is we're listening to students because they know, right? They know what they want. They know what they're interested in. And then not only that, we're seeing the value proposition of bringing students into the workforce, having high school apprenticeships and internships and paying them for their labor, right? And they're not coming in just to serve coffee. They're coming in to solve problems. And so IBM has a really kind of large high school internship program. We're seeing organizations like NFTE solve problems for employers. I'll use one other story. The CAPS Network is another very large educational institution, and the CEO, Corey Mon, told this story at a recent conference, which I think is phenomenal. They're another partner of ours. High school students, they'll place them with different employers, and they had a group of high school data analysts, that's what they wanted to do, work with Best Buy in the state of Missouri. And so Best Buy was then tasked, and as practitioners told them essentially, what's the 10th thing on your list that you don't have time to solve? Give that to these high schoolers to solve. So the data analysts came in and did an analysis of their like essentially the cost of what they're doing, what they're spending money on, and then their data storage. And what they realized was in all these local Best Buys, they wouldn't turn off their electronics at night, so everything was on. And Best Buy launched this initiative and saved $2 million over the course of a few months because these high school interns they brought in to solve a problem. And when employers are starting to see that more, we're starting to see this shift of having students come in, having student advisory panels and boards come in, and they can kind of shift what the workforce kind of looks like and solve problems that way.
That's incredible. It sounds like there's a lot of institutions just working together, the big blur, to listen to students and create those pathways like you were talking about, Caroline.
I think as well, and I love that. I think that's amazing because I think one of the biggest pieces is mentorship. We developed a mentorship program in Ireland where we connect employers to the classroom. So when young people are coming through programs like NFTE, they see the skills that they acquire and that they have gone into the classroom, but they also get an internship, an apprentice. So young people get to see what the work is like, they get to see what they're bringing, and can actually see their future develop. And I'll just share one really quick story, if it's okay, just in terms of the impact that programs like NFTE have. We had one young lad, Niall Foodie, who actually was a national winner of the NFTE program back, I think maybe in 2004, 2005. He came to New York and was part of one of the NFTE global events. He was a young man with Asperger's. And he never really found what he was good at in school, didn't really know what area he wanted to go into, set up his own business, loved the NFTE program, and we worked closely with some of the colleges in Ireland to develop a pathway into further education. So Niall went on to study business studies and marketing in college, and I met his mum a couple of years after. Niall was thriving in college, loving what he was doing, but his mum turned to me and said, Caroline, what NFTE's seen in our son, we didn't see in him. That NFTE's seen a future that we didn't have for him. And she was saying it in a way of going, that's the power of the NFTE program and what the teachers do for young people right across the world on a global level. And I just think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of wondering, because I do have a follow-up question to this, how can we ensure that our education system can foster an inclusive learning environment that equips our students with those necessary skills and that mindset in order to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion, because we do have a lot of differences, different communities, different backgrounds. How does that work for them, where sometimes they might be overseen?
Yep.
Well, I think I'll pass over to the panel as well, but I think it's starting where young people are at. And I think that is so different right across the board, no matter where you are from and what level you are at, it's starting where young people are at. And I think if you start there and see what it is that they're good at, what it is that they enjoy, you know, you'll find young people are starting to come into school more, they're starting to find a passion, they start to believe in their capabilities, you know, they're meeting new friends. Like, the knock-on effect of that is phenomenal, you know. And I think it's really important that we ensure, again, collectively and working in collaboration as we're all doing, to ensure that those opportunities are there for young people. And with all the amazing teachers here today, that's exactly the work that we're doing, is starting, I think, where young people are at.
Yeah. Also, Caroline, as you mentioned, the social capital mentorship piece, that is huge, right? In a space of workforce right now where over half the jobs are jobs you get from people you know, right? So it's gaining exposure and connections both in your community and out of your community is a critical piece of that. I will also add, it's so important for young people to learn how to advocate for themselves and be able to communicate about their achievements and their accomplishments and understand that, especially when you have job descriptions right now. People of color and women are less likely to apply for a job or a role, right? And so compared to a white man applying for the job, I think a white man applies for a job if they have 50% of the qualifications. For a white woman, it's like 60 to 70%. For a person of color, it's an even higher, 80 to 90%. It's so important for young people to know early on about what their accomplishments are and being able to share that, and share that in a space where they feel comfortable at first with their peers, but then in pitch competitions, right? And really share about their achievements, because as they're kind of moving into that space, making decisions about post-secondary pathways, they have that confidence to kind of take that next jump.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I think that's amazing. I think it's
Yeah.
so important that young people can do that. And also, I think collectively that we break down barriers for inclusion and ensure that all young people get the opportunity, because they deserve it. And education is hugely important, and it's our pathway, for further opportunities. So I think it's key that we break down those barriers together.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a huge challenge for teachers, though, right? Educators. The jobs of 10 years ago are different than the jobs today. Jobs of 20 years ago, jobs of next year, like now it's even like accelerating, will be different than the jobs you have today. I know with the inclusion of AI, a lot of people are worried about whether they're going to have their jobs, the same type of jobs next year, because this can do a lot of the work that I can do. There's also the fact that, I probably will talk about AI, but I think that it's not about replacing, it's a reshuffle of the labor market. And it's similar how technology internet works, right? Like when we see teachers, there's a really great matrix of skills of different job occupations. And a healthcare worker knows as much tech as like an IT worker in a tech company, right? And same as an educator, right? So that you can jump from role to role to a tech company if you want as an educator. Technically, if you look at the skills matrix, but an employer or a labor market doesn't, again, always see the validation of your skills unless you have a degree, like a university degree. That's always been the proxy for whether your skills are enough, whether you are enough for that job. And I think we need to be really upfront about the fact that four-year universities are becoming more unaffordable, more inaccessible, and we need other pathways. We cannot be the only pathway to determine a child's future, right? So that's what I would center a lot about this conversation is just, if we're going to remove roadblocks, that's a really big roadblock for employers, for
Absolutely.
people.
And I love how you mentioned how universities are becoming more and more affordable for our students, especially various backgrounds. I do want to pose this question to you, Ashley. So how can we change the perception of non-degree pathways being inferior and ensure that our students see them as viable options for career success?
Yeah.
Speaking to your point too, Carolyn, about different routes.
For sure. It's such a big mindset shift, right? Especially for many of us who grew up in a college, everybody has to go to college kind of atmosphere, right? And having that shift happen now. I think a lot of it is about exposure, because you can't be what you can't see. So if you don't have an experience of being able to see another person in a career and see the benefits of it and see their own journey through that, you're less likely to go down a different alternative route. What we've learned too from many of our partner school districts is a lot of the resistance tends to come from family members of the students, right? Because if you either go to college as a parent or as a family member, then you want your child to do the same. Or if you didn't go to college, you want your child to go to college. And so I think a lot of that too is about exposure to family members as well, having a lot of family nights, family conversations, inviting them to project showcases, doing student-parent conferences where students can kind of present what they really care about. It's also really critical to think about where we're having these conversations. So to kind of go back to the equity piece and the DEI piece, what we've learned across some research across the landscape is we're seeing college for all still as a conversation in majority white school districts or school buildings, right? You still see the college for all conversation. And then if you're in a school district that has more students of color or low income students, students with disabilities, they start having the pathways conversation. That creates a really big equity gap and will continue because then we're not changing the system, right? And so we're starting to see employers take away having bachelor's degrees as the norm, but we need to have those conversations in all of those spaces, and that's really critical too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just speaking to the point of also involving family members and the students getting that exposure to just different things. I remember being at plenty of NFTE events, and especially our pitch competitions where the parents will come in support of their students and see, wow, it's not just my student doing this, look at all the other students, just really showing up with confidence and really thinking through a business plan. And so that begins to change their mindset on how, maybe you don't need to go to college, or maybe you don't need to do this, that, or the third. And I think, from my perspective, that's a great way to just start that trajectory of change, at least from the personal level. Caroline, I do have a question for you, talking now about Feroiga. In what ways would you say Freud's philosophy promotes continuous learning beyond the confines of traditional learning?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that we always say in Freud that the learning doesn't stop outside the school gates, that it's ongoing, you know, and as an organization, similar to what you were saying, Aisling, about it's supporting and developing young people to become active citizens, you know, to become consciously and actively involved in their own development, but also the development of their society. And when young people see that they have the potential and the skills to be able to make a difference to not only their world, but their world around them, I mean, that's the work that we do on the ground with young people, for all young people. While we know that a lot of the young people we work with are prioritised who those are at risk, the doors are open for all young people to be part of that. And I think that's, you know, supporting them, you know, developing their confidence, building resilience, being able to look at, you know, our 21st century skills and programs that we're running with young people through informal and formal intervention and universal work is kind of, I suppose, a big key for us to be able to ensure young people get the support that they need. You know, Ashley, to the point you were talking about around the support from home, a lot of our young people that we work with, you know, have really great support at home, but there's a majority of a lot of young people we work with that don't have the support at home. And I think that's something that we come and support, and I suppose provide that support through a structured format, but that young people feel included, they feel supported, and that they have those opportunities in front of them no more than their peers. I remember one parent saying to me that her daughter had autism and she went through the NFTE program and she developed 3 books. She's now on her 4th one on how to live life with autism. But one of the things she said to me which really stood out is that as a parent you want your child to want you but not need you, and that's what programs like NFTE do for young people, and I think that's something that's really important.
I just love the stories that you bring to the table in terms of just seeing how students can change over time with those mindset skills. But I do want to shift the conversation a little bit and talk about VR, AI, technological advancements and things of that nature for you, Caroline. But Tamar, if you do want to chime in as well as you, Ashley, feel free. Since the pandemic, right, education has changed significantly, and one tool that many of us are using now is virtual reality. But how could we use VR to help youth develop those specific skills to develop themselves in risk management, making informed decisions, taking initiative, problem solving? What do you think?
Well, I suppose for the large youth organisation in Ireland, like everybody, in the middle of the global pandemic, we found ourselves, you know, going from face-to-face youth work to being online, which was a huge challenge, as we all know. One of the things we tapped into was virtual reality. So how do we engage young people who we know are out there and that can't access a club or a project or a program that really need our support right now? And virtual reality was a lifesaver in our organisation. And we have built and developed and grown it over the last number of years. We have over 600 VR sites right across the country where young people are involved in our clubs and projects and learning through virtual reality platform. Because not only did it, you know, include young people in a time where we needed it the most. Post-COVID, we also found that actually there's still young people who can't access a club or a project or a program within the organisation because they might be in hospital for long periods of time who are sick. They might be in care. They might be young people who are getting into trouble with the law and can't access, you know, through various different initiatives. So actually, it was still a problem to be able to involve and break down barriers for young people. So VR has continued to thrive in our organisation. And you know, one of the biggest things for us is where we had young people who were coming in around mental health, because I think that's been a really big key problem post-COVID, where young people maybe weren't confident to walk into a club or a project, that actually use the VR platform to be able to meet young people first, meet their teachers, meet their practitioners, and actually develop that relationship before they walk through the door. And the difference that that has made has just been life-changing for young people. So a lot of our work now as a youth organisation is a blended approach, online and in person. And also the connections on a global level. I know with the NFTE team here in the US, we ran like a really amazing showcase through virtual reality with Steph and the team. But it was just phenomenal to see all the country flags, you know, all the young people taking part, to know that actually there's young people right across the globe doing the same work that they're involved with. So I think the method of VR is just, it's life-changing.
Yeah, and a quick follow-up, how engaged would you say the students were? Because that's new technology, and I know a lot of young people love gaming and things like that. So did they take to it right off the bat? Was it just like an easy shift from, okay, we can't be face-to-face, so now we're online? How did that work?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I'll be honest and say we learned from the young people. They taught us so much because the young people know they are so interested and motivated by technology and VR. Not all young people, of course, but a lot of the young people that we work with really were. Absolutely, we've seen, a lot of young people being quite apprehensive and worried about, kind of making that jump. And also our youth workers, our staff, our educators were unsure because maybe technology wasn't for them either. And I think the answer to that was that we don't have to be experts in everything. We don't have to have all the answers, but together and in collaboration with supports from our funders, our corporates, our mentors, that's where it comes to life, and breaking down those barriers. And I think during COVID, they needed it so much that we, did a lot of training. We provided a lot of resources. We provided a lot of webinars and supports on the ground to, I suppose, develop their confidence to be able to log on and feel comfortable with using that technology. And I would say practice makes perfect because, I think it's over time that you develop those skills.
You mentioned a lot of mindset domains, and I find it just encouraging to hear that different companies are also exhibiting entrepreneurship domain skills. That's incredible. I now want to open up the conversation of AI. Tamor, we might start with you. We know that AI has been a seriously hot topic lately, with companies and school districts thinking about how they can incorporate some of these tools to increase efficiency. So how can we prepare youth for the future of AI as it stands in terms of impacting the workforce?
Right, I mean, that's not an easy question, and I mean, we are still learning, right? I think the AI that we have right now, the difference is it's continuously evolving and learning, right? It's continuously learning, and it can do more and more things, and as a student sees that and they see, wow, first it can write my essay, but like so-so, now it can add citations, now it can add quotes, now it can add, videos, and these, it'll keep doing more and more and more, and then you have to be able to figure out, okay, the students are going to use this one way or the other, right? We're not going to be able to avoid that. But how can we make it a interaction with them? So I'll say, so for example, we just partner with Khan Academy, and they have the Khan Migo AI tutor tool that's rolling out slowly. And I love how it's set up because it's not, the AI tool for that one is not writing the answers for them. It's actually prompting the student to respond back, right? Like, what do you think about this historian? Or what is your thoughts about this quote, right? Like, it's trying to encourage the students to actually come up with some analysis, right? And support them on that at their own pace, right? And I think that's, like, if we direct students towards those kind of tools, right? But this is all being built on. I don't blame anyone for being nervous or confused. I know a lot of teachers use AI. A lot of districts might not be happy with it, but I know a lot of teachers use it, and you all are becoming experts at it on your own way. But it's going to take some time to understand how to use it in the classroom. But what we see, at least at Intuit, when we work with our teachers, is that AI is not replacing a teacher at all. The need for teachers is still there. The empathy you provide, the communication you provide to teachers, to students, it's going to be even more appreciated, more needed, right? And this will maybe even give you more time to build those relationships with those students, right? Because you have how much curriculum and content you have to provide for in one school year, right? Like, maybe this can help offset some of that. The AI can help build some of your lesson plans. And you can focus on the student experience more in the classroom. I know with post-pandemic students, literacy rate, like math scores, everything is going down, and this is a huge challenge. Like, again, no one blames teachers for this. This is a system-wide effort that, again, going back to blurred lines, institutions need to come in and help as well. We all need to help because this is a really major crisis that we're having right now. We have a teacher shortage, right, as well. I know I'm like cascading on these things, but there's a teacher shortage, and again, I mean, that's why I see AI as hopefully a support for this. But I was even talking to one of these schools in Detroit where they have this like major teacher shortage, And the students are bored of ChatGPT, and they're bored of Kahoot. They play it all the time, and they're always talking to ChatGPT like, we want a teacher. Like, we're tired of this, right? we're not learning anything. And so, like, they want to learn. Like, they might get a little bit distracted, and they might get restless, but they need you, right? And so AI is not going to replace that.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with the need for a teacher's overhead and in touch with our students. I wasn't in school in terms of AI, but looking at it now, you could definitely see how students could use ChatGPT to write essays and solve math problems and all of that. But what about the input from our educators? You know, what about the empathy, like you said, from our educators, and the willingness to instill that passion within them and guide them along the lines that they need? So that's definitely incredible.
I also think it's up to educators to explain how to best use AI, so they're not necessarily using it to write a paper, right? So because I use AI all the time now in my workplace, and many folks are, it's how do you then use this as a tool to create an outline and then kind of guide through that, to look at research. I think it's how can this now be a tool to build on and to leverage, so they're not necessarily using it and replacing their own learning, essentially. And that takes a teacher to be able to support that work too.
Absolutely.
And I want to add, there's a Teach AI coalition of nonprofits and companies that are coming together to help create some of that curriculum and content. And there's AI in Education. It's a nonprofit organization. If you look up those two, they have a lot of great resources. ISTE, I know, has some great resources. International Society of Technology Education, and the U.S. Department of Education also released some like guidances for teachers. So it's out there, and it might be overwhelming, but the support is there.
I'm glad that you brought up those resources, because one of my questions was going to be, how can our NFTE, or even just educators, period, how can they teach themselves about AI? Because they also need to learn. It's something that's new for them as well.
Yeah.
And the students at this point might know a lot more than adults and educators might.
I think that's really important, Vinay, just to say that as well, that it's important that, you know, teachers and that don't feel like that they're on their own with this, that education is key, and resources and training to be able to support that to know that they're in it together, I think is really key as well.
Yeah. I'll also add real quick, something really interesting we're starting to see with with a trend for some school districts. And one of our partner districts in Taunton, which is in Massachusetts, has been doing this, where they have teacher externships. So many educators are career educators or have transitioned right from another career and have been in education for years, which is great, we need that. But then also, it's hard to know what's going on in other industries and how AI is being leveraged and what industries are doing within the community. Some districts are starting to create internships where they will have a cohort of teachers over the course of a certain period of time go into different workplaces, learn about it, gain that kind of exposure, build those connections. And I think that's another really interesting way to advocate to your admin to have this kind of piece in place where you can actually get out into the community and build those connections and gain those experiences as an educator and bring that into the classroom as well.
That's amazing. I want to give you guys a round of applause. Thank you guys so much for your insight. So at this time, we're going to open it up for question and answer from the audience.
Hello, good evening. I was gonna ask, like, what is your biggest inspiration? Because I know as like a big company or a big business, it's a lot of dedication to have it and to not like, you know, essentially give up. So what is your guys' inspiration to continue? Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you so much. I think for me personally is seeing firsthand the impact that it has on young people is phenomenal. And you know, I know we talk about this every day, but it is actually life-changing. And when you see that come to life for hundreds and thousands of young people, you know, across the world, that's powerful. You know, that's worth getting up for every day. That's my view.
Yeah, I would second that. I think being able to actually, and this is what we try to do across our organization, because most of our company are in marketing or in our digital team, getting those folks to see some of that on the ground work and see some of that for students. I will also say I'm often inspired by the young people in my life. So, young people that I see every day, my family members, former students of mine as a teacher. I think those individual relationships are also a really big piece that keeps me going in my work.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's how I grew up. I was second generation immigrant, a single family household, didn't have much going on, right? Like in terms of opportunities. And even people that I grew up with, a lot of them have just given up. They're very satisfied with this, not satisfied, but they're used to the struggle that they're facing, and they don't believe they can do more than what they've got, right? And so for me, I obviously am there for them, but I don't want to see that continue happening to our kids and the next generation in our community, in our neighborhood. And to do that into it, for example, on a wider scale, to at least try to make a difference. I'm not saying you're going to be able to save everyone or help every single person, but I think for me, it would be a disservice to me, my background, and how I grew up to not at least try.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna ask, is there any way I can get your contact or anything that I can connect? As a teenager, I would like to participate or anything that you're doing, and yeah, then I can get your contact. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure I speak for the panel to say that we will share contact details later, and be delighted to help in any way.
The list of everybody's participant contacts will be made available later. Yeah. Question?
So earlier on, a topic was brought up about like the introduction of financial literacy, like talking about money in a household. So how would you guys like recommend starting those conversations? Because coming from families that like struggle, you don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about money, and your parents like they don't want to talk about money because they know we're struggling. So how do you introduce those conversations in a household?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
It's not. I don't have an easy answer for you, to be honest. It really depends on the household you're coming from. So, for example, right? If you're coming from a Spanish-speaking household, a lot of it is a language barrier, right? The content isn't always available in Spanish. So, at least into we have our education content in Spanish, but Council for Academic Education, another nonprofit, creates webinars dedicated to families of Latino background in Spanish for them. So that's like, hey, inviting your family, hey, like let's just sit in this webinar and listen to it together or on our phone and watch, and we can talk to this planner, this financial planner, right? There are nonprofits that we work with in South LA, Hidden Genius Project, LA Promise Fund, for example, who go to those families and go to those communities. So I would look for the community organizations, the nonprofits in the community where you trust, where they understand you, right? I think a lot of the times there's like these big foundations, big organizations, and they speak as if, they speak down to you a little bit. They make you feel like you're inferior, and there are organizations out there that don't do that. So those are just a couple that I would start with, but it's really, really challenging. I think there's a great, I know this is silly to say, but YouTube is the biggest education company out there, right? And there are, that's just the fact. And so they're not like marketing themselves as an education company, but they are. And so they have a lot of great YouTube videos of people who might, again, look like you, might have been part of the family, and seeing how they have the conversation with their family and being able to replicate that really is a good start. But it's really tough. It is really, really tough, and I think the best thing we can do is, at least as teachers or as like stakeholders or partners, is to at least give them the chance and give them the resource of those organization contacts, of those videos. Yeah. That's what I would start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great as well. And I also think what I love about NFTE with conversations like that is that it's included in your manual. So it comes up very organically. And for example, within the NFTE program in Ireland, we give all young people who take part like a €15 startup grant. It's not a huge amount of money, but if you go into business with 2 or 3 others, then it all adds up. And everybody is starting on an equal playing field. So nobody is coming in with more or less. And I think it's like we talked about earlier, starting where those young people are at and having those discussions through their financial plan, through their presentations, through their, their marketing, their product design, their development. It comes up very organically in a program that alleviates kind of any stigma, I think, associated with you know, if young people are coming from backgrounds where maybe they don't have, you know, a lot of income, that actually shouldn't matter. You're starting together and you're starting on an equal level, and I think that certainly helps kind of leverage those conversations for us anyway.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think really empowering the students to be able to share what they've learned, so whether it be within the school district or through a nonprofit or organization, sometimes it's difficult hearing from another adult, right? Somebody who isn't part of your household or part of your family, but having a young person come in and share, like going back to that student parent conference kind of idea that some school districts have leveraged, having them come in using a business plan or a experience where they try out something and they have a salary, and the parent or family member works alongside them and kind of uses that. So they're not necessarily talking about their own household income, but they're given a situation and they're able to kind of solve it, is also another way to do it too.
I love that. I think it makes it more personable.
Yeah, and it's a little gamified too, which makes it a little fun to be able to say, like, here's your career.
It seems like it hits both backgrounds, the younger perspective and then the older, because they're getting that situation.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you just reminded me actually of, we had a young girl in the NFTE program going back, definitely maybe 17 years ago now at this point, but she set up her own business, baking. So she baked like buns and breads and started kind of coming up with contracts with various different shops, and actually employed her mum. So a couple of years in, she employed her mum, and her mum now works for her. So their business is a family-run business now. So I think there's so much learning in that as well, you know. So.
And I wanted to add, sometimes I forget I'm with Intuit here. So Intuit has, the simulations of the products that I mentioned for education. And a student can, for example, with a Mint simulation app or a Credit Karma simulation app, for free, they can use fake money and actually just play with it. And because I think a lot of times the parent is like, we don't have money to understand how this works. I don't want to take risks. I'm worried about, we already have a lot of debt. And it's like, hey, let's just practice using fake money here and teach you what it means to over 3, 4, 5 years, how this can help us, right? So we also do offer that available for families as well.
Yeah. Sounds like awareness. I wish that I knew about that when I was growing up, and being able to have that. So maybe the big blur that you were talking about actually can help more awareness for families as well as the students, kind of leading that trajectory within their families.
Any other questions? We've only got a few minutes left in our session, but we have room for one more. Yes, hang on, Jonathan. Another NFTE alum. Boy, we got some good questions from our alumni today. All right, hang on.
This is a hard one, and I'll put you on the spot. What do you think is the biggest skill gap for teachers, or opportunity for teachers to upskill to keep up with all the trends you're talking about?
Can I just clarify? Was that what is the biggest gap? Is it?
Yes, a skill gap.
Yeah, I would say technology. So I think, and this is just something that we see in Ireland with our educators, that kind of just through feedback and through discussions, they would say to us that they're kind of a little bit fearful at times that there's so much happening at such a quick pace when you look at all the new technology that has been brought into various different programs and classrooms. And we talk here today about VR, AI, you look at kind of coding, animation, so much is happening in terms of the technology side. I think for us, a lot of the teachers would say that they're afraid that maybe they're not going to be able to keep up unless we have the training and supports and the resources and the education for teachers, for youth workers, so that we in turn can support young people with where they're at for the future of tomorrow and what that looks like. So that's certainly what we're encountering.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And then also, going back to my answer in a previous question, exposure to various industries and jobs, and understanding those experiences, building those connections with employers. That's a lot to do when you have a very immense list. So with the technology side too, how do you prioritize what to focus on? And then how do you then put all of that time into building those kind of real world connections? You can lean onto some intermediaries in your community, but that exposure piece and building that network of employers is definitely challenging, depending. I know I'm talking to a room of Nifty teachers, so many of you have been doing this work, but for many districts, that is definitely a gap.
Yeah, I'm not a teacher. I'm not in the classroom, so it's hard for me to say, to just say what a skills gap would be. What I do know is that you all are the first ones to hear about newest apps, the newest games, newest slang words. Like, you all are on like the frontier, and companies are like begging to understand Gen Z and Gen Alpha, the next generation. They just don't get it. Like, companies just don't know how to market to them. They don't know how to sell products to them, right? And they don't know also how to hire them, right, as workers. And so you all understand them better than anyone else. So I would honestly flip it and say you are probably in the most innovative space in this system, as opposed to being behind. And it's us that needs to catch up and listen to you all on, this is what my students are doing, this is where they're at, this is what they're looking for, this is what they're about. You got to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that, because I also think as well, actually, just to bring it back to your point as well around, I think there's also a gap where like employers want to get involved. You know, more often when you've got corporates and businesses, like our staff, we have staff in the organization who are employed to work directly with the teachers and connecting our teachers with employers and educators, you know, in third level institutes to say, you know, if teachers need a guest speaker or somebody to come in and be a judge on a panel, that, as you said, actually, teachers don't have, you know, you guys are busy enough with the workload that you have that more often when we get a staff member to be able to come on board and make those connections, it's such a huge support. And I think if that could be done for more schools, you know, for Nifty right across the country, I think it would be an amazing benefit, and the impact will be powerful.
Thank you guys so much. That concludes our panel for today. One more round of applause for everybody.
Thank you very much, Vinay.
And I have here, if you want to learn about Institute for Education's new app, QR code right there. Obligatory QR code.
You were amazing. That was so good.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more round of applause for Vinay and our wonderful panel, please. Great. The next round of sessions will begin at, I believe, 2 o'clock. So you have a little bit of a break. Please enjoy, and we'll see you in a bit.
Thank you. That was fun. Thank you. I'll stay until tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you.
I just want to say thanks, because you guys are literally in the spotlight to go through like sessions and things like that. And then, you didn't even get the E.
It's okay.
Your insight, your insight and your inspiration.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you.